March the 16th, 1918, Turbot Township, Pennsylvania. Dear Diary, today I heard a song by Elsie Janis. Her voice was so soft.
Somebody was a flapper. She was dangerous, she was dapper. She was really quite a fascinating.
On the radio, they said that she sang, danced, and told stories for the American troops. She is such an inspirational woman. She is known as the sweetheart of the AEF. It reminds me of the time when I was in Europe, a few miles behind the lines, when the rain and the cold persisted with the fierce noise of shell fire, and when the bombs missed us by about 30 yards. I would have liked to have had this joyful parenthesis to make me go out of the horror around me at that moment. This kind of song would have given us a lot of enjoyment in the hard time of the war. I understand why soldiers love her. She is hope for them. May the 12th, 1918, Turbot Township, Pennsylvania. Dear Diary, this morning on my way to work I saw many copies of a patriotic poster called Every Girl Pulling for Victory, designed by Edward Penfield. It represents a Liberty girl dressed as a sailor pulling a rowboat. The girl has masculine features to help convince women that they are stronger than they think, to make them more confident and to help them for the war. The poster urges women to join the army and encourages donations of money and charitable services. Her boat is called the Victory, and the poster is promoting the Victory Girls United War Work campaign. June the 28th, 1918, Turbot Township, Pennsylvania. Dear Diary, today at lunch with colleagues I heard about something incredible. There are 18 black women who work in the Red Cross like us. They are nurses stationed at army bases in Illinois and Ohio, but the most incredible is the reaction that this news produced at the table. I thought everybody would be happy. It's a real advance. The war has a lot of disadvantages, but it brings people together in the war effort. At least that's what I thought. I know we live in a segregated society, but I thought it might allow us to live together. The National Association of Coloured Graduate Nurses supports black nurses in their fight against racial discrimination. These 18 nurses take care of African American soldiers. Is it normal that they cannot nurse everybody? The majority of my colleagues think so. Segregation is still present, and it is not about to stop. July the 20th, 1918, Turbot Township, Pennsylvania. Dear Diary, today I don't want to write about myself, but about another brave woman. I met this woman at work. She is affected by the time passing by life in general, and we spoke together. As her husband is off at war, she has to replace him in everyday life, in every task of her daily life. She wakes up early each morning at 6 a.m. and starts her exhausting, long day. She prepares her children for school and leaves them at her neighbours because it's still too early for school. She works at a munitions factory like a man with heavy loads. When I saw her skin, I was shocked. It turns to yellow because of the TNT, a chemical component. This woman risks her life working with poisonous substances without adequate protective clothing. When her day is finally done at work, another day begins at home. She picks the children up from school, cooks the dinner, gets the children to bed, cleans the house, and she then goes to bed. This endless day repeats over and over again. I realise that life is getting harder and harder for everyone. With the war, we are starting to suffer from food shortages. In the countryside, people even suffer from malnutrition. It's complicated for us. Women with children have to continue working while taking care of the house and their children. Here, everyone is more and more tired and has trouble getting by to do everything. I hope the war will be over soon. I do not see the end. I'm really down tonight while I'm going to sleep. I hope tomorrow will be a better day. August the 14th, 1918, Turbot Township, Pennsylvania. Dear Diary, again, it's another big day for women today. Yesterday, Opha May Johnson, thanks to her position in the first line, was the first woman enlisted in the US Marine Corps and the first of over 300 others who joined the Marine Corps Women's Reserve. Every newspaper talks about it. I think things are going to change for all women. This gives us a lot of hope. September the 8th, 1918, Turbot Township, Pennsylvania. Dear Diary, I threw myself into the newspaper after work and I saw that it was about the Hello Girl, American women as switchboard operators, whom I read a story about months ago. It's been 1 month since the first Hello Girl went to Europe with the Chief Operating Officer, Grace Banker. What I was reading this morning is about their lives, and there were also many pictures of them displayed. I saw their uniform, composed of a skirt and black jacket, with the badge of their company. Their lives are really full of adrenaline. The Hello Girls have an active role in military operations, and there are 2 types of switchboards. The first one, which is for logistics, puts allies in relation in short and long distances, and the second one is made to consult messages between the command unit in Bordeaux and the Havre and the fighting units in the trenches. There are a lot of specific military codes. October 21st, 1918, Turbot Township, Pennsylvania. Dear Diary, today I received a letter from my friend Mary Keeley. She says that she arrived in France 2 weeks ago. She is with the YMCA organisations. This is the most popular organisation sponsoring facilities for US soldiers. Last month she went to the American Red Cross to see if they would take her, but they told her they were taking no women except nurses. It's the reason why she got involved in the organisation. She explains to me that for women without medical training, another possibility is to serve in canteens established for US soldiers behind the fronts. These canteens are sponsored and built by voluntary organisations hoping to provide recreation for the men. Women performing popular songs, dancing with soldiers and doing theatrical plays. In addition, organisations recruit all American girls to serve food, play board games, maintain libraries, write letters and otherwise distract the soldiers in good ways. As a young YMCA worker from Missouri, she reports that the women who serve in the Y huts, huts built for recreation and religious services, work hard. She describes a variety of tasks, from cooking, cleaning and hosting events to the heart-breaking tasks of talking with soldiers who are homesick, ill or mourning. It reminds me of what I did in France. I find it amazing to see how women are mobilised for these men. I am proud of the place we have in this war because I see that it is also thanks to us that our old life without the war is still maintained. December the 10th, 1918, Turbot Township, Pennsylvania. Dear Diary, on my way home I listened to the radio and I heard an interview of Merle Egan Anderson, a Hello Girl. She had 11 years of telephone operating experience and she joined the Hello Girls in France. And she said, "There was an emotional tension experienced, I'm sure, by every veteran who has served overseas. For some, there would be no returning, but we knew we were answering our country's call and we were proud of that mission." And 2 days after the 11th of November, Egan was being resigned from the position of Chief Operator of the American Peace Commission in Paris. It seems incredible that a young woman from a small city in Montana could rate an assignment that would involve telephone services to not only the outstanding men of our own country, but the world. Calls from President Wilson's residence to Lloyd George of England to Clemenceau of France and Orlando of Italy were a daily occurrence. January the 15th, 1919, Turbot Township, Pennsylvania. Dear Diary, You see how we are depicted now? End of the World War, men return from the battlefields and women who have replaced them at work get back to their role as housewives. This is how we are represented in advertising. The perfect and a bit idiot woman who smiles and takes care of their children, husbands and homes. After all we have done for our country, this is how we are treated. November the 12th, 1920, Turbot Township, Pennsylvania. Dear Diary, today I was at home listening to the radio and I heard a story about an incredible woman named Ida Wells Barnett. She was born a slave, but today she is an activist journalist with a lot of convictions and a strong fighting spirit. In Chicago, she shifted her focus to the women's suffrage movement with a strong grip, continuing her devotion to justice and democracy. She created the Alpha Suffrage Club in January 1913 in order to show that she was very engaged in politics among women. Through her work with the Alpha Club, she realised that African American women did not necessarily have the education to participate in politics and the electoral process. It was a fact that she wanted to fight against. That's why she reached out to other clubs for black women at the local, state and national level in order to encourage more black women to become involved in politics. In March 1913, there was the first suffrage parade in Washington, D.C., an event organised by the National American Women's Suffrage Association, and inevitably Ida Wells Barnett went to this event. On the day of the parade, with 60 other black women, she arrived to march with the Illinois delegation, but they were immediately corrected because as women of colour, they had to march at the back, so as not to upset the Southern delegates. She refused, arguing, "Either I go with you or not at all. I am not taking this stand because I personally wish for recognition. I am doing it for the future benefit of my whole race." She first left the scene, therefore the crowd was convinced that she was complying with the request. However, she quickly returned and marched alongside her own Illinois delegation, supported by her white co-suffragists, Belle Squires and Virginia Brooks. This event received massive newspaper coverage, and it allowed light on the reality for African American participation in politics. Her community-based efforts, particularly with the Alpha Suffrage Club, helped the women's suffrage movement reach its success. Her work helped pass the presidential and municipal bill in Illinois in June 1913, giving women over the age of 21 partial suffrage, the right to vote in presidential and municipal, but not state elections. She helped register women voters and constantly encouraged women who remained sceptical of their place in the electoral process. Even after the 19th Amendment, adopted in 1920, allowing that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex, she travelled throughout Chicago and Illinois, emboldening African American women to vote and participate in politics. When I was listening to the radio, I said to myself that things have changed, but there are still big inequalities between men and women and between black and white people.
Wells seems to have been a sort of natural feminist from the beginning. She never really seemed to see any reason why she couldn't do everything a man could do. And the fact that she had to support her brothers and sisters from an early age may have sort of shaped her idea of herself as someone who was, sort of head of a family. All of her positions on women were progressive. She was always in support of women's votings, a member of various women's suffrage organizations. So she saw how much women could do in terms of influencing public opinion and was eager to encourage women to be activists as well. Her legacy is as someone who had a very radical voice at the turn of the century, which was in many ways not a very radical time. She was a female leader in a time we usually associate with male leadership. To me, she was someone who was so consistently activist and so principled about it that she sort of, in a way, encourages us all to kind of look inside ourselves and ask whether we're doing enough.
Rights for women! 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 Rights for women!
I have never imagined that my great-great-grandmother had such an extraordinary life. I didn't know that women played such a role in the First World War, and that the conflict had had such an impact on their place in society.